It's the Political Free Agents podcast, back for our Sunday episode. What's going on, Mike?
What's up, brother? Today is a perfect Sunday. The weather is just amazing right now, at least where I'm at. I don't know what it's like in your neck of the woods, but
it's doom and gloom over here, man. It's
gloomy,
raining.
Oh my God, it's like perfect outside right now. Cool breeze, sunny.
Man,
just getting ready for the hurricane or this tropical storm to roll through, I guess. Like
yeah. It was beautiful yesterday over here, but woke up this morning and it was just terrible outside. So I installed my man card. I kind of increased my man card. I installed a doorbell on Friday, bro. So now I can actually look outside without going outside. So felt very manly after Friday night. So I woke up and I saw a notification that said somebody had come to the door. And I was like, oh, snap, it's raining outside. But that's how I found out. But I do love this camera. My wife says it's kind of creepy. She doesn't like the always on camera sort of thing that's watching. But
that's only watching the outside of the house, right?
Yeah. But the thing is, man, let me see. I guess it was maybe Monday or Tuesday. Our AC was still busted. They fixed it on Thursday. And so we were sleeping in the living room and my niece was here. And so it was on the couch. We got the L-shaped couch. So it was me and then my niece and then my son. And they woke me up and were saying, hey, somebody's at the door. Well, man, it was like 5 a.m. And so I start, walking around, looking through the windows, trying to see what was going on. And I couldn't, see anybody. So I was like, okay. So I was like, well, I guess it's time for me to go to work. Like, how do you go back to sleep after that? So I went ahead and just grabbed the 9 and sat at the desk. I was like, well, but they said somebody was banging on the door, man, like banging. And I was, I sleep hard, so I didn't hear it. So that's when I decided. I was like, yeah, no, it's time to go ahead and get something, some security cameras going. So went ahead and got that one going.
World's only getting crazier, brother.
Yeah, man. And that's the thing. Like, it's like, I don't know what's going on. The last thing I would want to do is shoot somebody, but I'm definitely not going to let them come in and take advantage of the family. So I was like, well, gonna have to go ahead and just get ready. I'd rather be ready than surprised. So, went ahead and did that. And, everything was fine. Nothing ended up popping off, but it's like, man, yeah, I got to get some security cameras. Now my wife wants me to put in more because she went to a friend's house. It's like, they have security in the back. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, you kind of need to have, it's a good idea to cover all points of entry.
Right. So, yeah. That's the next move is to go ahead and install some of those and get them rocking. We tend to have it's a pretty calm neighborhood, right? Like, I mess around and leave the door open with my wallet on the dash and it'll be there in the morning. But
of your car?
Yeah.
Bro, yeah. That's a bad idea.
Oh, no, it's not on purpose. but I've left like my debit card sitting out in the open and stuff, like, just, mess around and go to the store, leave it in a spot and forget it. And, so it's definitely not a terrible neighborhood in that sense, but, I don't want to get too comfortable and just assume that, it's never going to happen. So, but yeah, man, so that was my Friday, getting into increasing my manliness by installing a doorbell. I felt so accomplished.
Well,
it's just a doorbell, but
all you did was replace an old one with a new one, though, right?
Yeah. That was turn off the power and plug a few things up.
Right.
Hey, but don't diminish my accomplishment, hey, Mike, man. Hey,
hey, bro.
Anytime I get the drill out, I feel super manly. I'll be like, yeah, baby.
I've been using my drill a lot more lately now that I just got married.
Got that honeydew list, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
It's
I had
never
a buddy who used I think he used a chainsaw not too long ago, and he felt the same way. He was like, "Yeah, nobody talked to me for a week." Yeah, it's hilarious, man. What we find that little joy in. Uh, but man, yeah. So we were just talking in the pre-show, man. We'll jump into Ruth Bader Ginsburg in a moment, but I'm really interested in discussing this cryptocurrency news that you have shared. And so there's an article that you gave that was from Bitcoin.com, and it's Kraken cryptocurrency exchange gets U.S. banking license, plans to be global bank. And so the cryptocurrency trading platform Kraken has received a banking license recognized under federal law to operate as a bank in the U.S. The company has outlined its plans to offer a number of cryptocurrency focused financial services locally and globally. What's this mean, Mike? What's going on with this news?
Well, I mean, it's a big deal because anybody that knows anything about Bitcoin and the concept of Bitcoin, what it means to the traditional banking system, knows that it's extremely difficult to get a banking license in the first place. So the fact that Kraken even got it is says something, because they don't just give out banking licenses. But it's a big deal because essentially it's another form of adding legitimacy to the crypto market. Because when Bitcoin first came out and when this whole thing first started, there's a lot of skepticism when it came to, is this thing legitimate or not? And this is just another form of adding legitimacy to the market as a whole. The fact that Kraken can now act as a bank provides a way for businesses, small, medium, large businesses, to transact more on the commercial side of transactions. It would be like you having a small business and having a business checking account and moving your money in and out of a business checking account at a bank. Well, you can do the same thing with crypto now, and so it'll make make acceptance and transfer and swapping out crypto for cash a lot easier and pretty much seamless through Kraken's banking services. Because the way I understand it is, you can hold cash and crypto in the same account and transfer it between each other. So, if you take, let's say you take or accept as a business, $500 in Bitcoin, that Bitcoin goes into your, business checking account at Kraken, then you can transfer that Bitcoin into cash in that account and then swap it out, use it for however you need to use it, move it out, pay people for services and things like that, or pay them in Bitcoin. So it's just going to add another layer of support and stability to the ecosystem. The fact that they're going to be able to act as a bank, and there's some really key differences in how they've structured this banking system, though. So in the article, it says, as a bank, Wyoming, and this is talking about Wyoming, but Wyoming law requires Kraken Financial to maintain 100% reserves of its deposits of fiat currency at all times. So traditional banking operates where, let's say you deposit your $500 into the bank. Well, legally, you don't own that $500 anymore. You've essentially given that $500 to the bank, and they owe it to you if you come and ask for it. And so you've given up your legal ownership of that money. And additionally, once you give that bank that money, they can look traditionally, there's a 10% reserve requirement. So they can loan up to 90% of your money, only keep 10%. And they're supposed to pay you a percentage, for loaning them your money. But essentially what that means is that if everybody went and came and asked for their money all at once, the bank wouldn't be able to give everybody their money back, which is, why they had bank runs in the past. So Kraken has to keep 100% of its reserve, has to keep a 100% reserve requirement. So that means that if everybody came and asked for their money, Kraken would have to pay everybody all their money at once, and they would have to have all their money on reserves. So it's a very important distinction to make when it comes to how they're setting up their the banking services. So they're kind of they're setting a new precedent when it comes to how they're banking and what they're using or what their services are going to have as far as cryptos goes. So it's just it's some pretty big news in the industry, the crypto industry. And this just came out, so we'll see how it plays out over the next 6 months to a year. But this is just more good news.
Yeah, definitely, man. This was interesting. I haven't been to Kraken in a while. I opened up an account, I think when I first started with crypto a few years back. And I'd opened the account to get XRP, and I couldn't get it or something. I ended up going with not Binance, but there's another one. I can't remember which one, but
there's Coinbase, there's Binance, there's
XRP was on one of them. They were like in Europe because I had to like wire money to get some XRP. And so I had initially set up Kraken, but then just like all the ways to get things going. Anyway, the point being, I just was like, let me go ahead and check Kraken out again. I hadn't looked in a while. And I mean, they've updated quite a bit. I mean, obviously, if they're going for a banking, license and stuff, they've got some money coming in. So they've definitely updated the site. A lot of new features. They're offering they got futures now. I mean, they got staking and all sorts of stuff. So pretty nice. Good upgrade. So from the banking perspective, like I find it interesting that they kind of changed the rules in this way. Do you think this would ever really cross over to, I mean, if you think about it, like you mentioned, the bank runs in the past, that's one of their biggest fears, right? Like if there's a bank runs, that's going to be problematic for the entire economy. That has been historically. And do you think that they'll end up changing the regular banking laws as well to deal with everybody in this way? Or is this only because I think Kraken is based out of Wyoming, right?
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah. So is it only because it's Wyoming, or do you think they're going to do this going forward with other banks?
You'll never see the big banks, JP Morgan, the major ones, Wells Fargo or anything. They'll never subscribe to this. This is how, I mean, honestly, this is one of the reasons why the big banks want to move to digital money in the first place, is to avoid bank runs, because bank runs in the past were centered around physical money, right? I mean, the concept of digital money wasn't around when banks were,
right,
traditionally, taking in people's money and storing it. So this is one of the big reasons why they want to move to digital money, because if you can just shut people out of their accounts, then they can't perform a run on the bank.
You know what? I hadn't thought about that aspect, but you're right. They would have a level of control.
Correct. Yeah. This has always been about control over the money supply. So, the big banks and the traditional banking system will never sign on to something like this. This is, this kills this type of thing would kill their business model. So, you know, Kraken is just, like I said, this is essentially a new way of banking, and they're first to market really when it comes to that. So, but this is the exact kind of thing that gives people with a lot of money, people like Michael Saylor, and this is, you know, the other article that I sent you.
Right.
MicroStrategy's CEO Michael Saylor just made a $425 million investment into Bitcoin. So he took $425 million of his company's cash and has bought Bitcoin. Now, this is the kind of thing that, and I'm not saying that he's putting that in Kraken for Kraken to store. I'm not saying that. But this is the kind of thing that gives people more comfortability, especially people who are running businesses, to store their Bitcoin and their assets into a place that can't just take it and loan it out and, you know, take 90% of it, 50% of it and move it somewhere, and, you know, and just kind of, you know, mess around with the supply of it. So this is the fact that he took $425 million of his company's cash and moved it into an asset class like Bitcoin says a lot about where he thinks the economy is going. And if you really want to listen to, a great interview that he did about him explaining why he did it and how he did it, you can go to Mark Moss's YouTube channel and listen to the interview that he did with Mark Moss. It was a great interview. So, but yeah, so some big news in Bitcoin last few days or week or whatever. Just,
yeah. I mean, the interesting part is he basically told his shareholders from this article, he told them, well, one thing he said was he wanted to find a place to, you know, put money for 100 years. And then he basically told them that money is no longer a safe place for its excess of $500 million. So essentially, he took all but 75 million in excess cash and put it all in Bitcoin, which is, and this is, you know, Michael Saylor being the guy that once said that Bitcoin days were numbered.
Yeah, and let me correct myself. It wasn't Mark Moss's channel. It was Anthony Pompliano's channel, the Pomp podcast. So,
yeah,
my bad, Pomp.
And the thing is, like, his stock actually in MicroStrategy actually went up. It looks like after this happened. So it was hovering around 140 and shot up to 175 once this happened, leveled back off at 150, 159.
It's a nice little return right there.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. But man, this is crazy. Like 38,250 Bitcoins. That's what he bought on August the 11th. Like, can you imagine holding 38,000 Bitcoins? But
I would have retired for sure.
Yeah. that's a
in retirement on a ranch somewhere.
Yeah, no doubt. That's a massive buy, man. And the interesting thing about it is, I'm curious if other companies start doing this, right? Like this would be like the biggest vote of confidence and legitimacy claim that Bitcoin could have, is if companies started investing their excess. Like, imagine, you know, what does Apple have? 2 trillion. Like, imagine if they just decided, you know what, we're going to give up, you know, 200 million or whatever. I mean, it's a drop in the bucket, or 1 billion or whatever. You know, that would be some some big time legitimacy. I think you start seeing a whole bunch of dumb money start running to grab some as well.
I mean, you're seeing some, I mean, like you're seeing big players who are very anti-Bitcoin start to come around. I mean, even Jim Cramer from CNBC's Mad Money went on Pomp's podcast, like a week ago, and he is now buying Bitcoin. Like
he was big time against it, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I thought so. Interesting. I didn't hear about Cramer.
Oh yeah, he did it. He did it. I'll link the interviews. We'll link the interviews in the show notes. They're both great interviews. But you're seeing people and this is the thing, right? Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies they're very much the younger generation's thing, when it comes to money and technology. But you're seeing the older generation, people of Jim Cramer's generation and Michael Saylor's generation, people within like the traditional money markets and money system. You're starting to see them come around a lot to the idea of what Bitcoin is and why they should have some of their assets in Bitcoin and other types of, inflation, inflation assets, because they see the writing on the wall. They know that the Fed is going to keep interest rates at zero for the next 2 or 3 years. They're going to let inflation run hot, and they're going to print unlimited amounts of money. So even the old guys are starting to see the value of Bitcoin.
It's an interesting time. Great time to start dollar cost averaging.
If you haven't already, yeah.
Yeah, man, no doubt. All right, so Ruth Bader Ginsburg passed away. And I think largely everybody knows who she is. I'm not going to give a full synopsis of her life, but she was basically on the Supreme Court, and she was one of the second women to be on the Supreme Court, and she was basically a stalwart there that, bit of a champion of the liberal cause, I guess you could say, in terms of equality and helping women and those sort of things. And, she's long been that staple. Well, she's been sick for a while, and you kind of knew this was coming, right? Like you knew she wasn't going to make it too long. She's been in the hospital, I don't know, 3 or 4 times this year, or at least within the last year or so. And it always made news because you knew on one side, the liberals don't want her to pass under Trump. And then on the other side, the Republicans want her to pass under Trump. Not saying they're all just like terrible people hoping she dies. I'm just saying, like, in terms of the position opening up, they definitely want that position open so that they can get somebody through the door. And so what we're seeing is a rehash of basically 2016 in a way. It's a bit of a rehash where Obama had nominated Merrick Garland, and the Republicans were like, absolutely not. There's no way we're going to even give him, an interview. We're not even going to talk to him. We're not going to, have any confirmation hearings, nothing. And so Merrick Garland just was nominated and just kind of sat there, like, for the longest. He just sat there waiting, and they basically held out until Trump won. And then after that, it was, too late. And so then Trump filled that seat. And then, another one was filled. My general position on these positions, I mean, I get it that one side wants to, they want to fill the seat with somebody from their side, but I think people give presidents way too much credit for this. This is something that they do not have any control over. Like, the only way you get to fill a seat is if somebody dies or retires. And so it's like right place at right time sort of thing. So I don't really give him too much credit on this, but yeah, go ahead, Mike.
Well, I was going to say that, and he's essentially handed a list that was made by other people as far as who the choices are. So it's not like Trump has any idea about what this person's history has been when it comes to judicial decisions, and he's given a list with names on it. Somebody else is telling him, this would be a good pick for X, Y, and Z political reasons. And that's about it. Trump's not sitting there thinking like, well, how is this going to positively or negatively affect the constitutionality of, X, Y, or Z? Like, that's just not. It's not what either side is really doing anyway. If you ask me, I mean, these are mostly political decisions when it comes to the appointments. I think the left is worried about the abortion issue. And probably a couple other perceived left issues, and the right is. I think the abortion one is really the biggest one that people talk about when it comes to.
I think so too.
RBG. And
but the interesting thing is, like, the Republicans already have the numbers, right? They're already, like, it's already lopsided, like 6-3 or something like that, right? Or 5-4.
I don't even know, to be honest.
And so I get it. Like it secures another seat, and these are lifetime appointments, so it's 30, 40, 50 years, depending on how young the person is, that they'll be in this position. So I understand it. From a flip side angle, though, I called this back in, when did it happen? 2015 or 2014, something like that, when Harry Reid, I think Harry Reid was still in there, and the Democrats decided they wanted to change the rules. And they decided, well, we don't want to have the supermajority. And they decided that, well, we're just going to go with a simple majority, because they were trying to push their agenda through. And I saw it at that time. I was like, because I remember posting about it and having a discussion about it, because I said, look, y'all may want this one thing now, but in the future, when the Republicans are in power, because it's going to happen, like it's going to flip-flop always. No party holds power for that long. You're going to regret this decision. And here we are. You're going to regret it, because one, Mayor Garland didn't get in because of your decision to change rules. And then two, once Trump got into office, each of his justices, they were easy to fly through. Well, it wasn't easy for Kavanaugh, but like it was easy to get through because they didn't need Democrats, right? Like we knew what the Kavanaugh vote was going to be. We knew what Gorsuch was going to be. Like it's, you change the rules. And so now we're at the place where it's 43 days, something like that, to the election. And if they wanted to, they could hold the hearings and try to push this thing through before the election. And there's nothing the Democrats can do about it. And they can try to obstruct and slow it down and request meetings and slow roll it as much as they want. But, as much as I can't stand the hypocrisy of the Republicans on this, like the Democrats kind of shot themselves in the foot, so, whenever Garland was up, you had folks like Ted Cruz out, who was saying, oh, we need to hold off on that. And if Hillary wins, we need to, hold off as long as possible, like this sort of thing, right? Like we could have basically an 8 justice Supreme Court, and that was fine. But now he's saying, oh, it's a problem because the election is going to be contested, because Biden said he's not going to accept the results, even though he said he would. And, Trump said he doesn't know, but I think Trump is just playing the fiddle for people to kind of throwing some red meat out there. Um, Lindsey Graham said that if an opening comes up in the last year of Trump's presidency, that they would wait. He said even if it happened when the primary started, we will wait until the next election, until, after that. So like there's a laundry list of Republicans who said, no, we would not do this. People, we are here to listen to the people, and the people voted for this, and we're going to put them in this position. And now they're like, oh no, justice, let's go. Let's let's vote.
They, this is a very it's a very distinct possibility that they won't get the opportunity again.
Yep.
If Trump loses, then that's a wrap. So
yeah,
you
and
might as well take it while you can, because like you said, they're lifetime appointments. But I mean, going back to what you're saying about how the Democrats shot themselves in the foot, though, they understand. They didn't make this decision and not understand that, how this whole thing works, where Republicans will eventually be in charge and they can eventually use this rule in their benefit. So, they knew the risks that they were taking, and see, the Republicans do the same thing. They don't really care that the other party will get to use whatever rule they want to change at the time that they happen to be in power, right? It's all about short-term political ends and goals. So if they have to take the chance that sometime in the future the other party gets to use that rule that they changed or they wanted changed, it's fine. They don't really care, right? So the Democrats didn't really care at the time. I mean, and now, like you said, it's biting them in the ass. But it's not like this is unexpected. This is par for the course. They're both.
Yeah, and I think I just wish people wouldn't have such short-term memories. But I get it though, because there's so much that's happening. Like, how do you remember that one thing that happened back then, sort of thing? And I think they kind of depend on that, right? They depend on short memories, so that way, they can just push through and do whatever they want to do, right? That's why I repeatedly say they're not here for us. I don't care which party you pick a party; they're not here for you. Like it's a means to an end.
Democrats, people who fancy themselves as Democrats, they're not going to know that this is all because the Democrats shot themselves in the foot, that they can get away, that the Republicans are going to get away with this, right? They're not going to remember what happened 4 years ago. And I don't think they're going to, even if they did, it's not like they would care anyway.
Right.
So, but yeah, you're right. It's just another scene in the political theater and circus show.
Right.
Yeah,
man. So I wonder, so Trump gave a list of justices a few weeks back, maybe just 2 weeks ago. I have a feeling they kind of knew, like they kind of knew this was coming. But I wonder how fast they truly can move without just rushing anybody in there. Because I think the Republicans may be a little careful here. Like, because I see two ways of this playing out: is they use it as, like a bait, like a carrot out there, like, hey, you have to vote us in because this seat for the next 50 years depends on it, right? Like that's an incentive, right, to vote. But they also have people like, the Chief Justice Roberts, who has sided, quote unquote, with the liberal position in the last 2 votes or something like that. And then you take Neil Gorsuch, who also is like very, like, I didn't have a problem with Neil Gorsuch at all, because he was definitely like rule of law, sort of thing, like Constitution, like let's focus on this aspect. He wasn't as partisan. So they don't have like 2 stalwart Republicans, right? Like who are or let's say out of the 5, they're missing 2 that, won't necessarily just outright side with party. I can't speak to the rest, but I know those 2 have been pretty middle of the road in that sense. So I wonder if they try to force it through and just get as right of a person as they can,
this is what I think is going
or
to
if
happen.
they wait.
I'm going to put my Nostradamus hat on real quick.
All
right. So I think this is one of those issues that they would much rather take care of in the background. Now, the only way to get around a Supreme Court justice decision and the circus show that would become in the press on a daily basis is to have some other bigger story take precedent in the news cycle. Now, what other kind of thing could the news cycle jump to so that the Supreme Court justice decision, while important and big, would kind of be secondary and kind of behind the scenes when it comes to news coverage? Now, Trump tweeted out, for something having to do with foreign policy. Trump tweeted out 6 days ago, according to press reports, Iran may be planning an assassination or other attack against the United States in retaliation for the killing of terrorist leader Soleimani, which we talked about at the very beginning of this year before COVID even kicked off. And I've been saying the chickens haven't come home to roost yet when it comes to this whole Soleimani thing. So, which was carried out for his planning and future attack murdering U.S. troops in the death. So if, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but if prior to the election, the next few weeks, something pops off and we get into something, I don't know what it would be, I'm not saying we would go full-scale war with Iran in the next few weeks, but, if something happens to shift the media coverage away from this, then I think they could probably pass it, like you were saying, pretty quick, and kind of run it through in the background, to where it's not like full focus, center stage media attention. Because I think if it's center stage media attention, the division would be too much that I don't know if they'd be able to kind of get away with it. But if there's something else kind of taking precedent and kind of, the shiny thing that people are kind of looking at over here while we're doing this thing over here, then I think they could probably get away with it. We'll see how it plays out. But.
Interesting. I do remember our discussion about the Soleimani bombing. And I remember you saying, like, you're not going to see a true response. The response that they had with all the soldiers who got the concussions and stuff like that, that was just like a show of force, not necessarily like we really want to attack you. And I remember you saying that and saying it's going to be a while. Like this plays out over time. Right. And you're right. Like this, I think that's the one thing that you can do to it be a secondary story. I'm not sure if there's really much else, but Trump is a master at distraction, an absolute master. I don't care what it is, what's going on. Trump is great at, blowing smoke to get people to look at a fire that doesn't exist while the other hand is over here doing something else. And it's crazy that I think the media has recognized it. I just think they can't help themselves.
Ratings.
Yeah. I just think they can't help themselves. And I was thinking about this yesterday randomly. I forgot what I was listening to, but I was just thinking about, like, why do I not watch like MSNBC and stuff like that anymore? And, it was just like, I hate being manipulated. And it's like, I can see the manipulation now, and I just hate being manipulated to be outraged about something. And so I just chose to cut it off. But I think that's part of it. Like they just want to, like you say, ratings. They just want to push this thing and get it out as fast and as far as they can to get as many views as they want. And Trump throws out some of the best red meat. Like, I can't lie. That's what I've been telling people the whole time. The dude is a marketing genius. Like the rest of it,
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know. You know, I don't know where he stands, you know, where his faculties are. But the marketing side, just utter genius. Like, absolutely. Like, I don't think there's any other way that you can put it. And so if it's not war, I'm not sure what else would be big enough to kind of take over the news cycle other than war. But I think they will try to do their best to do something. I mean, McConnell basically stated, you know, that it's within their duty, like that it is their duty to vote on this. Like it's in their duty. And so Democrats, you kind of did it to yourself. Can't be mad at anybody but yourself. Like this is the problem when you make bad decisions. It's no fun when the rabbit has the gun.
Yeah, I mean, God, this political season is just crazy. You've got a new opening. It's 2020 is crazy. You got a new opening in the Supreme Court that now they have to fight over. You've got Trump and Biden essentially saying that they're not going to accept the results of the election because of potential fraud, election fraud issues.
Yeah, and yeah, let me actually clarify. Earlier, I said Biden said he would accept the results, but he put a caveat. He said if all the votes are counted, which
right. I mean,
that leaves some wiggle room, right?
It's only going to take somebody to say, you know, this polling station was closed, or these votes weren't counted because of X, Y, and Z. Like, it's gonna be it's just gonna be so interesting to watch and play out. I mean, I don't know how people can watch sports these days and not watch politics like it's a form of athletic entertainment on the same level. You know what I mean? Like, this is just so, it's entertaining on one hand, it's depressing on the other hand.
Right.
And it's just fun to talk about.
I mean, I'm saying, like, it's, I tell people all the time, I can't watch news like that because in the analogy I tell them is I yell at the TV like it's a quarterback throwing a bad pass, right? Like, I'm like, no, it's not. That's a lie. Like, it's so funny to me. Like, I just get, a thrill out of all this stuff, man.
Well, it's easier to get a thrill out of it, or it's easier to make light of it when you kind of step outside both sides.
Yeah.
It's not as easy when you're stuck on one side looking at the other side as if your side's the righteous side. The only way that you can really get to the point to where we're at is if you kind of look at both sides like they're equally responsible and equally guilty and culpable for the situation that everybody's finding themselves in right now.
Absolutely. So last point. What do you think about these potential picks? They have Amy Coney Barrett and Barbara LaGoya, or I think it's LaGoya or LaGoya, something like that, who are potentially going to be Trump's picks. One is a judge in Chicago. Barrett is a judge in Chicago, and LaGoya is a judge in Atlanta. And they are at the top of the list, and it's crazy because it's like these quick sidebar. I saw somebody talking about Trump's discussion about the picks, and for those of you on video, you'll be able to see the gesture I make. But Trump said it's most likely going to be a woman, and he kind of does his hands like in a circular motion. And they're like, this is what Trump thinks of women in the votes. And so I'm like, the dude does that every time he talks. He takes his hands from the top and then like he's rubbing around a basketball. He does that all the time. And then the little wiggle move, like he'll hand up and then like wiggle down, like, and so people like get focused on some of the weirdest stuff. But anyway, these two judges, just from the narrative perspective, Mike, I want you to take the lead on this one. Like, what do you think from the narrative perspective these two women do to the conversation. Now, and I want you to address what we were talking about in chat, but Barrett looks like she's a white woman, and LaGoya looks like she may have some, I don't know, Italian or something in her, something like that. So the woman of color, narrative kind of seems to fit in on that. But what are your thoughts on that from that narrative perspective and how this plays out?
Well, I don't think the left's going to be able to use identity politics the way they would if it was a male,
A white male,
right?
Yeah.
So
because that's the key,
right? A white
they'll
male.
use.
So the fact that he's looking at women right now it's gonna be a lot harder for the left to use identity politics, I think. So I think I don't know what they're going to use to make the case. I would be very surprised if they use actual decisions that these judges have made to try and disqualify them. So I don't know. I mean, honestly, I don't know. I don't really know enough about these two women to figure out where they would try and poke holes. If I'm sure they're going to try and poke holes somewhere, but it's not going to be like Judge Kavanaugh, where all of a sudden somebody comes out, from 20, 30 years ago, accusing him of sexual misconduct when he was in college. So I don't think some guy is going to come out of the shadows saying that that either one of these ladies, roofied him and took advantage of him in college or something. So
here's one interesting tidbit I just found out. So LaGoya is Cuban American.
Okay.
And she lives in Florida. So
Florida's one of those swing states. So
yeah,
she may have some legal pull over there. It might benefit Trump politically somehow, some way to choose a Florida judge. I don't know.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Absolutely. And she's Cuban. That Cuban community is, from what I understand, I don't know firsthand, but what I hear is pretty tight knit in that perspective. So
we'll have to watch the hearings to see what the crazy left throws at him.
Yeah, and so Barrett is 48. So that means,
20 solid years.
Yeah, definitely 20 solid, probably even 30, depending on when she wants to retire. Right. And apparently LaGoya was actually easily confirmed. I think she's an appeals court judge, I think I saw in here. And she was easily confirmed. So, like you had mentioned in our private chat, like there's history of their decisions and their confirmations that should be able to get them through this process a lot faster. So that's interesting. That's interesting. I found it funny. I got a real kick out of it whenever we were chatting and you were like, yeah, if she was black, it'd be a slam dunk, like that one checkbox.
Oh,
right?
100%. 100%.
And yeah, you're absolutely right. If Trump nominated a black woman, like they wouldn't
lose their mind. They'd lose their mind.
How would they combat it, right?
They wouldn't know what to do.
Like, how would they deal with going after her, right? Like it's one of those situations where, like if you look at the protests, like they're very careful. Like they're like, no, we don't want to condemn it too hard because we may not be right. And then some, the Trump supporters or far right group does something and they're like, oh, that's garbage, right? Because they have freedom to move without, racial blowback.
I bet that's a running joke in Democratic circles. They're probably all like, God, at least she's not black.
Yeah.
And God, she's not black. Whoever.
It wouldn't shock me at all, man. And, you can't help but laugh at this stuff, man, because that's a factor. Mm-hmm. Like, it is. It's absolutely a factor, man. Like, without a shadow of a doubt, it's a factor. And so it's interesting. It's going to definitely be interesting to see how this position gets filled, who they fill it with. It wouldn't surprise me if they threw out these women as, and I think they're both Catholic, by the way, if they threw out these women as potential choices, but then neither one of them get the nod, and they just go with another white dude, it wouldn't shock me at all, who they picked. But Ruth Bader Ginsburg had a interesting quote where she says in an interview one time, they said, "How many women do you think should be on the Supreme Court?" And she said 9. And they were like, "What?" And it's like, well, there's been 9 men. Nobody had a problem with that. Why can't there be 9 women? And so, that thinking is that for the longest, it's been like certain positions have been like white male.
Let's see that just shows that just shows the flawed thinking is in her mind, the fact that there were 9 men was the wrong answer, or that was not the most optimal way of setting up the Supreme Court, right? Not like having all men is probably not a good thing in her mind, right? So she goes the other direction. She's like, well, let's put all women in there because that'll be way better. If that'll be even better, or simply because there were all men, why not have all women? Like, so she's making the argument against herself. She's like, well, we had 9 men, and that's probably not a good thing. So let's put 9 women on there, which is probably also not a good thing. I mean,
right.
I'm not saying it should be 50-50 because you can't even do that with 9 anyway. But
right.
Well, maybe today you can, which with the way people classify themselves. But I don't know. Touche. But
I didn't hear the interview, so I can't speak to what her overarching point was. I just saw that one quote. So I don't know if she was poking the bear or if she was legit saying, let's put 9 on there.
I don't
Hey, but check WhatsApp real quick. Check that image I just shot you. So Elizabeth Warren is out here with a big banner of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and behind her that says honor RGB, says no confirmation until inauguration. And then her podium says honor her wish, no confirmation until inauguration. Her last wish was that she not be replaced until after the election. And, it's like, okay, cool. Like, I understand last wish sort of thing, but she knew. She knew that wasn't.
Oh my God! Yeah,
she knew that had no legal bearing or anything.
That reminds me of that tweet I saw that lady who blew up in her car. Did you see that? I sent it to you, didn't I? That white lady that blew up in her car, and she's screaming at the top of her lungs. You haven't seen that on Twitter?
Oh yeah. No, that she.
She's like,
I thought she meant literally blew up.
No. She's like, all you had to do was make it past the election. She's like yelling at Ruth Bader Ginsburg while she's dead. She's like, that's all you had to do.
And that's the interesting part is I've been just like watching from afar. I really hadn't posted much. I posted like a RIP and then some of her quotes and images, and that was really it. But it's been interesting to watch how people have taken this, because now people are blaming people who didn't vote in 2016. And they're saying, don't ever tell me. I saw Charles Blow, who is he's on CNN a lot. Well, he used to be. I don't know if he still is, because I haven't watched in a while. But he basically stated, don't ever, tell me again that I need to have decorum with these people. They are, blah, 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 going off. And I'll never, see eye to eye to these people and that sort of thing. And it's like this visceral response to something that anybody knew was coming. Everybody knew. And let's just be clear. Let's say Trump loses, and in 4 years, in the last year of a Biden presidency, if one of the justices dies and the Democrats are in power and there's 50 days to the election, they're absolutely going to do this exact same thing.
100%.
Without a shadow of a doubt, they're going to do it.
Yep.
Like this is like ripe fruit for the picking. Like, of course they're going to do this, man. This is what they're going to do.
Yeah, they're accusing Trump of doing something that if they were in Trump's shoes, they would do the exact same thing.
Right.
100%.
And it's like, oh, you're dishonoring her and this sort. It's like, no, like I understand. Like you want to honor her last wish, but it's not like her last wish was everybody go out and vote. She's like, let's stop the process until 2021. You know, so I don't know. She from what I understand, she led an amazing life and she was a powerhouse. You know, so rip to RBG, or the notorious RBG as they called her. So anyway, good discussion, bro. Good discussion. We do this thing twice a week. Do it on Fridays. What am I talking about? Distracted trying to find the music here. We do this on Sundays, 2 p.m., Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Everybody needs to go to social media, wherever you go, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and go ahead and like us, subscribe to our channel on YouTube. Go to politicalfreeagents.com, hit that like, hit that subscribe button, help you get the numbers out. The only way we start combating the things that we're talking about here, all this partisanship, is to get the message out. And there's no other way around it. We just have to get the message out that everybody needs to live the politically free life, not this one that is tied up in all of these individual goals that they want to manipulate into them accomplishing. So help us get the word out. Help us inform as many people as we can. We are the Political Free Agents, and we're out.
All right, man. That was fun.
Yeah, no doubt, bro. No doubt.